Good morning, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that beautiful music from Aaron Cassette. It was just particularly gorgeous today. Thank you. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. Whether you're here in our beautiful sanctuary or watching our live stream from home or catching up later on YouTube, we're glad that you've joined us, whichever way. My name is Susan Bernor. I'm on the UU St. Pete worship team. Our minister, the Reverend Ben Atherton Zeman, is away today. He'll be back in the pulpit next Sunday. When he is away, our worship team handles Sunday services, and today we're happy to present something that's always been very popular here, is one of our series of Journeys services. In these services, we ask two members of the church to share a little about their journey, however they want to define that, how they have come to be at this time and place right now. It's an opportunity for us to get to know them better and to learn from one another's experiences. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Todd Wellman and Rebecca Wilson as our Journey speakers. I'm very grateful to them, and you have a real treat in store for you. We're very happy and looking forward to hearing from them. For announcements, first about the service today. We will have an old-fashioned joys and concerns sharing today, in addition to those joys and concerns that have been submitted in writing in advance. Also, Miss Trish is here, over here. Miss Trish, you want to give a wave? If there are any children with us, she will be having religious education class. News about what's happening around the church can be found in the printed program or on our website. You'll notice it's pretty quiet around here during the summer, but we're still gathering every Sunday. We're still feeding more than 80 people every Friday, and we're still committed to helping one another. So I'm glad to see you all here. If we have some special guests today, we have some people who are visiting for the first or second time. If you wouldn't mind, give us a wave so we can see who you are. Yep, quite a few. Oh, good. Now we know who to harass after the service. But you are invited to join us over here for coffee after the service. We're also glad to see one another. So let's take a moment to stand or turn and greet one another. But remember, a lot of us are still pretty careful about social distancing. So no presumptuous hugs, okay? Let's take a moment to say hi. Okay. Glad everybody's getting to chat a bit. We'll continue it during coffee hour. Let's get settled down. So many folks, I see some of our new folks are making some reconnections, which is great. But thank you. If you're new to this church or to Unitarian Universalism, you might not know what it is we worship at worship services on Sunday morning. Well, I learned this from Jerry Humphregates, who's heading up our greeters today. We remember that the word worship comes from the Old English for worth or worthy. So it's something about crafting worth and things that are worthy. We come together on Sunday morning to celebrate those things we find most worthy. Among them are community, compassion, and a search for the truth in love. We're glad you're all here, one way or the other, to celebrate worthy things together. For opening words in our chalice lighting, here's our worship associate for today, Bill Motter.
Good morning. My name's Bill Motter. I'm a member of the worship team, and I am your board co-vice president this year, along with my partner in crime, Karen White. It always fills me with emotions of happiness and joy to stand from this vantage point and look out at familiar and soon-to-be familiar faces. So I'm happy to be with you this morning. For opening words, this from Danusia Lamaris, entitled Small Kindnesses. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle of people, they pull in their legs to let you by. Or how a stranger still says, "Bless you," when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery basket, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm one another. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy? These fleeting temples we make together when we say, "Here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat." Ah, those small kindnesses, something worthy of celebration for sure. Now, please stand as you're willing and able for the lighting of our chalice, then remain standing for our first hymn. As Jeff Bambro lights our chalice, let's say together the words of our covenant with one another. They are printed in your program. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now please remain standing for our first hymn, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. It's number 361 in the gray hymnal. This hymn is especially meaningful for us in these days as we emerge from our isolation and physically enter the church building, rejoicing about our ability to be together, albeit masked, and fully entering into the community of people with whom we covenant. We'll sing all 5 verses.
I don't know, but I think I saw one smaller person come in this morning. Are there any kids who would like to come forward for a story? If you're shy, you can just sit right here in the front row. Okay, I think we're going to have them stay in their seats, and that's absolutely fine. But I'll tell the story real quick because the adults might get something out of it too. The first thing is to make sure we all know what a donkey is. Right? Everybody knows what a donkey is. It's a little horse. It's very strong, so a lot of times people would use donkeys like this to carry things, and they could also ride on them sometimes, okay? And when the children leave, I have some pictures of some famous donkeys for them. There's one in Shrek, remember? Anyway, this story is about some travelers and a donkey. And this was a long time ago in a very hot country. And people often use donkeys to travel through the desert because they're very strong and they can endure the heat. But sometimes you would hire a donkey, like someone who owned a donkey would sell you some time to ride the donkey across the desert. It's kind of like Uber. So there was this woman, her name was Miss Ava, and she had a donkey named Cedric. And sometimes she would make money by letting other people ride Cedric. So one day, a traveler comes and hires Cedric and Miss Ava to walk with him across the desert. He gets up on Cedric, they're going across the desert. During the afternoon, it got so hot, they decided to stop and rest a little bit, for a minute. And Miss Ava looked around, and there was no shade. There were no trees, there was, no tents, nothing. But she noticed that Cedric was a pretty fat donkey, and he cast a pretty big shadow. So she got in that shadow to cool off in the shade. She's just so happy to get there. Well, the traveler gets down off of the donkey and says, wait a minute, I'm paying for this donkey. I should get to sit in the shadow. And she said, wait a minute, you hired the donkey. You didn't hire the donkey's shadow. This is my donkey. I'm going to be here. Anyway, they get into this big argument back and forth. Whose shadow is it? Who gets to ride the donkey? Who gets to sit in the shade? They're arguing and arguing, and all of a sudden they notice something, that the shade is gone. There's no shadow there. What do you think happened? It's Cedric said, I'm out of here, and he ran off. The donkey ran away. So the moral of the story is don't waste your time arguing over things because you might just lose your donkey. And with that, if you want to join Miss Trish, we will sing you out.
Now's the time when you're invited to share any special things that might be large in your life right now. Several people have already sent in some joys and concerns in advance, and while Susan reads those, I will place a stone in the water for each one. If you have one to add, please come up to the front and line up over here on your right, and we'll have you speak into the microphone after you place a stone. You can also place a stone in silence if you'd like. Please be sure to keep your sharing very short, just a sentence or two. We'll get to the details later.
While you're coming forward, if there's anyone who hasn't turned in something yet, I'll read these. The first stone is from Geneva Nelson, a stone of joy because she has gotten over COVID. She was really tired of being home with a really bad cold-like symptoms for 2 weeks. The next stone is a stone of concern for Dave and Karen Cole. Several people in Dave's family live in Buchanan, Virginia, and you may have heard about serious flooding there recently. Dave had trouble getting in touch with them at first, so it was a very stressful situation for him, and they asked for your thoughts and prayers for them and their family. Karen also asked for a stone of concern for Barry Jones, who has been hospitalized for several weeks after a fall and a concussion that he got while he was walking at Weeden Island. And another stone of concern for Barry's dear wife, Mary Neal Jones, who remains by his side. Our hearts are with them both. Sula, over here, tells us that her air conditioning died this morning, or maybe yesterday, and she's asking if anyone can help her deal with that. She would appreciate a conversation after church about that. Finally, a stone of concern for Debbie Polis-Carter. She asks for prayers or good vibes as she deals with some scary health issues and with trouble with rent increases.
I have a stone of joy right here. Brett and I celebrated our 47th anniversary on Tuesday, and I will never forget this because he surprised me at the Columbia restaurant. We had tango afterward. So it was so special. We love the Columbia anyway. It's a great, great romantic place. So that's it.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Anne. And I'll place a final stone for those things unspoken and for those people who may not have a community like this with which to share.
Please stand if you're willing and able and join me in a responsive reading. It's number 490 in the gray hymnal. It's from the late Mary Oliver, a favorite of many Unitarian Universalists. It's called Wild Geese. And Rebecca suggested it for today because it resonates with what she's going to say later. I'll read the regular type if you'll join together on the italicized. Again, it's number 490 in the gray hymnal. And I really love the first line, and I live by it. Okay. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and excited, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Please be seated. I can't tell Bill from Susan in here. Our first Journey speaker today is Rebecca Wilson, as I mentioned before. Rebecca may be known to you as our financial secretary, a role that she has filled lately. But now she's taken on the role of our new board president. We're so grateful to her for doing that and grateful to her for sharing this morning.
Good morning. What is my journey? These are the questions that I pondered while I was thinking about that. Where do I come from? What happened to me? What did I do about it? How did that go? How does all this relate to you? I used to believe, as I was taught in my Southern Baptist tradition, at First Baptist Church of St. Petersburg, right over there. I used to believe that my soul was weighted down with sin and I was going to hell for eternal punishment unless I took Jesus as my personal Savior. I was taught some other things too, but that one really stuck with me. I did take Jesus as my personal Savior when I was 8 or 9 years old, with various rededications of my life to him during my teen years. After a lot of thought and internal argument, I eventually fell away from that teaching. What kind of sin could a little kid have? Or even a teenager? Really? The Baptist church was not the place for me. On the Baptists, a corollary of knowing the good news that Jesus came to die for our sins was the personal responsibility we each bore to tell others. You're supposed to spread the word, evangelize. That's your responsibility. In fact, it felt like it was all on me to save the world. That feeling, if not the actual belief, has stayed with me. It's hard to shake that feeling of responsibility for the world. Well, after years of being unchurched, my husband and I stumbled upon the Presbyterians. They seem to be more about seeking the divine and less about going to hell. We were Presbyterians for several years. My husband and I participated in a study group to rethink the Presbyterians' ban on ordination of gay people. There were no LGBTQIA+ people on the board or in a leadership position in our congregation. We studied the Bible and came up with a theological position that not only was there nothing against being gay, much more important was God's love for everyone. Our study group met with the board of our Presbyterian congregation and recommended lifting the ban on ordination of gay people. The board rejected our recommendation, saying they weren't ready to ordain gay people. This was a problem for me. That would mean my church was cutting out some people in my family and some other people I care about, and really just people. So the Presbyterian church was also not the place for me. After a while, when we were living in Washington, D.C., I found my home with the Unitarian Universalists. These are the people who covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. That meant that all people were included. It meant there's nothing wrong with people that needs to be forgiven by God or redeemed by Jesus. We can just be together in a spirit of love. And that interdependent web business, it recognized that we're a part of nature. This was the place for me. This past May, when I was asked to be on the board at UU St. Pete, I said yes, because I want to see my church thrive. I think by working together, we can keep our community vibrant and growing. I want this church to be here next year and in the years to come, for me, for you, and for the folks in the larger community. I never aspired to be the president of a congregation. I've always preferred to work behind the scenes, as the support, not the lead. I wanted to be the person who comes and sits in the pew and participates in congregational singing, and maybe sing in the choir, but not lead the hymns. I'm suited for work as the financial secretary in the background, so I'm not up front. Further, I had a bad experience in high school as president of my service club. That did not go well. I had no idea what I was doing. So nope, I didn't want to be the president of anything ever again. Well, change is a constant. We can't prevent it, but we can shape it. We can be open to possibility, to opportunity, and we can put our minds and our hearts and our efforts into building our community together. Now, here I am, starting my year as president of the Board of Trustees, your Board of Trustees, joyfully serving this congregation. We have a wonderful board, and I look forward to working as a team. I care about this community and where we go from here. I have faith in us. But unlike my experience as a Baptist, it's not all on me. That song we sing together goes, "From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live." It might sound like it's about taking up the offering, or maybe giving thanks, but to me, it's about everyone participating in some way. It's like singing in a choir. We each bring our own unique voice. It's not all on me. It's not all on me to save the world or the church. It's on all of us as a community. We are the church. We are the congregation. It's up to us to make choices, to decide who we want to be. So now I'm asking you, when the opportunity arises, think about it. Say yes if you can. If the opportunity doesn't arise, and no one asks you, then you ask, what can I do to help? How can I be of service? How can I contribute? How can I help build our community? From you I receive, to you I give.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for taking on the role of board president. Let's stay seated for a meditative hymn. From You I Receive, number 402, in the gray hymnal. We'll ask Aaron to play it through once, then we'll sing it quietly together twice. Our next speaker is Todd Wellman. Todd joined us during COVID, so maybe you haven't met him yet, but he is already very involved in the worship team and sometimes at the piano. Todd?
Starting in the year 2000, for 2 years, I ran the dormitory for a small art college in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I assigned each resident assistant staffer to host a weekly program of their choice. One person opted to host a movie night, another a free haircut salon. A third told me that he would be bringing students to a different church each Sunday, but that I had to accompany the group to pay for breakfast afterward. We visited churches accessible via quick bus rides from the transit stop across the street. Each week, someone chose a building that inspired them to say, "I wonder what goes on in there." At a sparsely attended Methodist church, we listened from the rounds of raked seating and later mostly remembered the children freely roaming during the service. At a formal Episcopalian campus, we found ourselves standing facing the wrong way and receiving frowns for our ignorance. Then one week, we opted for the Unitarian Universalists, intrigued by their English Gothic-style building, yet unsure of what New Age rituals awaited us inside. We took up an entire pew in the packed room. After, we agreed that since we all enjoyed liberal arts classes, that we had found the service quite agreeable. Unanimously, we decided the Tour of Churches program was over. My staffer would have to think up a new program because from then on, several of us would be visiting the UU congregation for Sunday mornings. It didn't take long for me to leave behind the sheen of the programmed group outings to reflect on what religious story I was carrying to this new UU place. From about 1996 to 98, roughly the first half of my time studying for my undergraduate degree at a Catholic college, I followed a mix of conservative evangelical and Catholic traditions. For my more recent fervor, I often attended a Protestant service on a Sunday morning, and for my upbringing and tradition, I'd head to a campus mass at night. Eventually, I ran both the quote-unquote pro-life club and a quite anti-gay college fellowship and worship group. The fellowship group was connected to a national network, and I had attended camps and conferences focused on converting the world to Christianity, whatever the means. Regardless of background or other squabbles, the attendees at such events truly thought everyone in the world was going to hell if each person didn't choose to be converted. Therefore, everything was done in the service of the conversation of conversion and retention. Like to translate languages, use that talent to convert people and remind the already converted why doubt, or what we called the door to backsliding, was bad. Like to sing, make sure the lyrics are aimed at converting people and keeping believers on message. At the end of that deep but short era, with the support of those like my friend Jeremy, and after endless introspection, conversation, and public debate, in autumn of '98, I rejected the anti-gay teachings that were so readily available from evangelical sources. A few months later, I left for winter break with my next semester's stack of reading. One of my religion classes included the book God Has Many Names by John Hick. Sitting at my parents' house that December, I zipped through this text on pluralism and presently felt like I'd been given away off a movie set, one for the last few years I thought held the bounds of real life. The world suddenly bigger, I returned to campus in January '99, gathered up all the materials for the religious-based groups I ran, and delivered the box of books and binders to someone who is also a member of the same organizations. Simultaneously, to help with school costs, I became a resident assistant, so I moved across campus to a first-year dormitory. From there, I began listening to the priests more, many of whom recommended embracing what I had been warned against in evangelical circles, and what I would later find very familiar in Unitarian Universalism, doubt. By the time I had my bachelor's in hand in 2000, I'd successfully doubted the loudest rules that I had previously held, and I emerged, for example, pro-choice. Where did I travel after my introduction to UU? Paired with decades of nonprofit and social justice work, and I state them separately because they are decidedly not always the same, I began to doubt the quiet as well as the loud. If the loud had been fiery issues of TV debate, the quiet was the web of systems we learn from and even nurture, perhaps without knowing it. I don't mean secret societies and conspiracies. I mean that the loud is so often the surface tenets or actions, while the quiet is the fuel for the loud. If doubting the loud includes examining how we individually discriminate against certain people, doubting the quiet may be exploring who we as a church or city have been taught to expect to be present and active in certain places. My journey also led me to ask 4 questions, especially when someone says something akin to, okay, I'm doubting, very good at doubting, what's next? I'll use the example of doubt leading to a desire for better local economic participation. The first question is, what's my internal work for my learning and for evolving my daily actions? In this case, regarding local economy, what intrapersonal reflection and what learning is next? What changes might I try out in how I acquire what I need and want? Could I do a better job of shopping locally? The second question is, how do I interact with others? Using the same sample topic, perhaps the focus is on how or when I talk one-on-one with others about the local economy, including those who threaten it, are oblivious to it, or energize it. The third question is, what might I do with my contextual power? Again, using the same topic, perhaps I look at what organization or club I have sway in and help the group switch to local vendors for needed suppliers. The fourth question is, how might I affect society or the culture of institutions? And again, on the same sample topic, I could consider voting to support local businesses, working with legislators to change laws, and conducting or supporting careful organizational change management in a workplace. One of my favorite parts of doubt is that it keeps away the type of assurance that used to allow me to believe everyone not of a particular belief system was going to hell. What a false burden I had been taught to carry. A doubt also remains me to balance celebration and satisfaction and realization with the endless journey of learning and reflection. I invite you to consider your doubts of the loud and quiet. What feel might that provide to your own journey?
Thank you, Todd. We're truly blessed to have Todd and Rebecca, blessed or lucky or both, as speakers in our congregation. A couple of weeks ago, Todd mentioned at this point in the July 4th service that freedom isn't free. Well, neither is church. So now we'll ask the ushers to please come forward and collect today's offering to keep our church going. And if you're a visitor, please feel free to let the plate pass you by. We're happy to have you as our guest today.
For closing words from my favorite UU theologian, Theodore Parker, who inspired Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King's speeches. Words that define Unitarian Universalism as a religion we can be very proud of. He said, "Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living." We're to our final hymn, and this hymn is so popular that Rebecca tells me we have to ration its use. We would sing it every Sunday if some people got their way, including me. So it's Blue Boat Home, number 1064 in the blue hymnal, this one. Please stand, we'll sing all the verses, and then please remain standing for the releasing of the chalice flame.
I confess it's one of my favorites, so I appreciate today's ration. Please remain standing while Jeff releases the flame of our chalice and join in saying our parting words, which are printed in your program. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Please be seated and enjoy the postlude music from Aaron as our service ends. We hope to see you in coffee hour.